Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us. With us today, we have Sagar Deshpande, Product Line Manager with Cambium Networks for the PTP820 and PTP850 product lines. Today, we're going to discuss the ins and outs of their new products, the PTP850C and PTP850S radios, currently available in 11 gig and 18 gig. Many of you have Cambium's PTP820 licensed radio solutions already deployed. Today, we will learn the advantages of upgrading your 820 radios to the 850 line and which scenarios are best for licensed 850 radio deployments. This is going to be a mostly technical product overview. There are just a couple slides to review, but they're jam-packed with lots of information to go over. Please submit any questions you may have, and we will cover them after the presentation. We will also be recording today's webinar for anyone that would like to rewatch it or may have missed it. Without further delay, I would like to hand it over to Sagar. Sagar, the
Great.
floor is yours.
Thanks, John. Good morning, everyone. Let's get to it. So this is just maybe I want to spend a minute covering the overall licensed product portfolio. It's a lot of products that we have. So generally, we divided them into two parts: the full outdoor and the split mount. In the split mount, we have the 820G, and then we have the 820F. For which you can have RFQE for the E-bands and RFUC, which goes with the 820G, as well as the RFUD and RFUD-HP. This is the split mount side. For the outdoor, we have the 820 series, so the 820C, 820C, 820S, and 820E. And in the C, we have the HP version, high power version. And the 850 is a newer platform which is built for a specific reason to accommodate like wider channels and provide better capacity. So each of these products has a direct translation to the 850 line. So the 820S becomes the 850S. The 820C becomes 850C. Note there is no 850C HP that we know of. So there is only 820C becomes 850C. The PTP820E becomes the 850E. The 850E product we launched, I think, close to 12 months ago. And that is the first 850 product line that we launched. And this time, I think 3 months ago, maybe a quarter ago, end of Q4, we launched the 850C and S product portfolio. Okay. Just a high level, we will be covering what are the specific differences between the 850C and Ss, but just generally for starting from the ground up. So as of now, we only have released 11 and 18 gigahertz products for the 850S. We plan to release other other radio frequencies probably. I have that roadmap, but middle of this year to end of the year. I'm not sure of which frequency comes out when, but definitely by end of the year, all the frequencies should be out for the most part. Right. Some of the key advantages for the 850 platform, this applies for the 850C as well as 850S because they share the same board. You have a wider channel size, so you go up to 224. I think the other earlier one you could go only up to 112 depending on the country code region. FCC you can stay at 80 megahertz, so you can't go beyond that. So it kind of makes sense over here. Second one is you can go up to 4K QAM. Whereas the earlier platform you were limited to 1K or 2K depending on the channel modulation and the frequency and all that. So here you can get higher capacity. So from your 1+ gig you are getting more than 2 gig capacity. The field diaplexers could be interchanged with the existing ones. Now coming to the interface, we have 1 gig Ethernet. 1 gig Ethernet interface. Two 1 gig SFP, that's 1 gig plus, and then one 10 gig SFP plus, right? So this will be predominantly your main input, especially if you're doing a 4K modulation. As of now, we support 1+0 and 1+1. Some of the other XPIC is coming up in the future. I have a roadmap slide where we'll be discussing specifically in more detail. Even the multiband feature also will be coming really shortly. L1 aggregation, in the next slide, we cover that in a little bit more detail. L1 aggregation basically means you're aggregating on the layer 1 between multiple radios, right? So we will be covering a little bit more in technical detail what it actually means, but this is just the basically on layer 1 on the PHY layer, you're aggregating between different radio and devices, right? So as of now, the specific number of combinations is supported, but definitely even in the like fairly near future, all the other stuff also will be available. Key things to look at is there is no backward compatibility to 820S, which means, hey, can I have one radio on 850S and the other radio on 820S? Can that work? The answer is no. It has to do with the platform and the way it is built. So it doesn't support backward compatibility, even though you're using the same frequency and the same channel size kind of thing, right? And you have, if you want to use to utilize the 850S with the RFUC, you have to use a mediation device, right? This is a specific device that you need to have, and then once you have it, you should be able to use it. Okay, let's focus a little bit more on the interface side. This is how the radio looks. 850S, similar to the 820S, is a single radio, right? So it has one antenna port over here. Mounting brackets are similar to the existing 820S. From the port side, we have one main PoE traffic, PoE management, which is a 10 gig, 1 gig PoE Ethernet. We have two ports over here, which are SFP, which could be converted to copper if you want, but basically they're 1 gig ports. And then you have the main, the port number 3, which is the SFP plus. This is the main 10 gig port that you want to connect. And this is the external port 4, which is useful for your 1+1 hot standby combination. Right. Okay, now let's come to layer 1 aggregation, right? So what actually this means is, let's say you have a 850S and you have another 8XX product line. So 8XX could be any of the either E-band or 850E or the 820E or any of the other products. You can aggregate it automatically, which means, let's say you have I'll make it simple, like 4 gig of traffic coming from this point to this point, right? So ideally you would want to split it 2 gig, but that's not always true, right? Because you may have 80 megahertz channel size available here, whereas you may only have 40 megahertz channel size, or it may be of a different frequency, which means your modulation rate would be different, right? So the key thing to keep in mind is the sequence of packets that come in have to be the same as the sequence of packets that come out, right? You don't want to jumble up the combination. And this is where the L1 aggregation protocol or the development kicks in. So it's a very sophisticated algorithm that we have, which will ensure that, let's say one packet goes over here, the same or the order of packet that reaches this radio, the 850S or the 850C, both radios have this feature. The same order of packets is received on the other side. It's done with labeling stuff on the packet stuff. But the general idea is you stamp it as you get in, and then you go on the other side and you reorder and then send forward. Uh, that is like the high level architecture, but if you specify on the details, regardless of what band you have over here, the L1 aggregation ensures that whatever sequence of packets come in to one side or vice versa is received to the other side, and you try to make sure that this is almost like a virtual pipe. So there's no, you don't have to worry about like a reordering of packets, packet drop, all that stuff is taken care by this L2 aggregation. So it's a really powerful feature which is coming I think by middle of this year, right? So once we have that feature, with your existing, let's say you already have a 820C product line, you may, or if you want to increase capacity without, let's say you have a specific channel size available and you want to provide the higher capacity, you can just add these radios, and with this L1 aggregation, without changing anything, you should be able to directly upgrade to this feature for this one. Okay, now let's come to 850S. So 850S is similar to 850C. 850C is similar to 850S, but it's a multi-core, which is a dual core radio. As of today, we have released the 11 and 18 gigahertz channels. We plan to release the 6 to 38 gigahertz as well in fairly the near future. So maybe about definitely by end of the year, we should have a majority of the frequencies released. Similar to the 850S platform, it will support up to 4096 QAM and up to 224 megahertz channel size. Of course, as of today, it only supports 112, but with the hardware upgrades with the newer releases, we will support the 224. It also supports a field changeable diplexer. It has a multi 10 gig port. We will cover that in the next slide. As of now, it supports 1+0 to 4+0, but it doesn't support some of the other XPIC combinations or LOS, 4x4 MIMO, that is a roadmap feature. Advanced frequency reuse also is supported. L1 multiband, which I talked about, will be supported as roadmap, as well as layer 1 aggregation. So the same backward compatibility issues which the 850S has applies for the 850C. Okay, let's come to the 850C interface. So the first port we have is the DC power. If you see, the look and feel is similar to the 820C as well. The second one we have is the 1 gig Ethernet, sorry, 10 gig PoE interface. The third port number 3 is the SFP, which can do 1 or 2.5 gig data. Port number 4 is actually SFP 10 gig plus. Port number 5 is also SFP 1 or 10 gig Ethernet interface, and port number 6 is for management protection. We do have same combination, so you can have we will support XPIC and the others combination support as well, where you can have it's the same, using the same frequency you can have VNH or vice versa. Okay, this is similar to the L1 aggregation. So upgrade every existing microwave link to a 4+0. Right, so if you already have a 820CS or anything else, or you can just add a 850C, provide a 10 gig fiber input where you can get higher capacity, and then using the layer 1 aggregation, the existing radio will be part of this entire system, and the 850C radio will take care of all the forwarding of packets and controlling the packet drops and all that stuff. Right, some of the key metrics or the key highlights is upgrade existing microwave links to 4+0 with PTP850C using layer 1 aggregation, which we already talked about. The 850C can be in different bands, and that by getting 4+0 in 2 different bands, right? So this is similar that we mentioned that it doesn't have to be the same frequency. It could be E-band as well, right? So it doesn't make a difference because we're actually aggregating at the PHY layer, like layer 1 layer. So this doesn't this specific frequency doesn't make a difference to us. The third one, the 850C can be installed on a dual split or circular unit, or with a different band or antenna, right? So as I talked about, it doesn't have to be on the same frequency band. It could be on a separate band itself. So it's the specific information, we don't need to use the same one. It could be on the different band as well. Okay, this is the important one. Let's focus on the roadmap, right? So I'll be spending a lot of time covering this in specific details. So we'll go through each one. So release 11.3, this were the radios that we are talking about. This actually didn't happen in October. It was somewhere in November, December timeframe. But we released the 11 and 18 gigahertz radios for the 850S and 850C. Some of the specific features which are common for the 850C, S and E is we support the standard G802 8032 and MSTP, so it's multi STP path spanning tree protocol. The 850S specifically, we had a couple of minor features. One was a single cable for management, and the 820 and the 850 we have a few features. I don't want to go into the specific exact one, but I just want to highlight some of the main ones, right? So the next release that we have again will be a pure software release. The hardware release is expected in 11.7. So in this software release 11.5, which is expected in early February, we are already working on this one. It will have some web improvement stuff. The 850C will support 10 megahertz channel. We will support 1588 timer, and some of the other such as bandwidth Ethernet, LSAP, and AES 256 for 1+1 hot standby. So some of these software features will start to become available for the 850 series. So the main feature release for this year definitely would be the 11.7 release. So definitely new hardwares are coming along. So for the 850S, we have planned 6, 7, 8, 13, 15, and 23 gigahertz. Almost everything should be final. Of course, we will share our notice and everything to confirm the specific frequencies if they are. But as of now, these are the specific frequencies for the 850S, and 6 to 23. Basically, we didn't want to repeat it, so all the frequencies will be available for the 850C. Then also the 1+1 hot standby and AES 256 will become available, right? So as I mentioned earlier, only the 1+0 combinations is available, but we will start to have all the XPIC and all the other features coming up shortly. From the 850C side, 4+0 layer 1 aggregation. So basically you can have 4 radios, or you can have 2 radios back to back, and then using the layer and aggregation you can have you can have 4 radios talking at the same time. Also, you can have multi-band with 850C. This is what I was talking about a little bit earlier, where the 850C, this applies for the 850S as well, or vice versa, or 820S if you want, 850S with other frequency bands if you want to add. But the 850S will be multi-band with the 850E. From the 850E, the E-band perspective will have specific features. ATPC is one, and then multi-band back with the 850S. New releases again in 11.9, so more firmware hardware solutions. One is the 850S 224, and actually the 850S 224 megahertz may not be applicable to US, because as of now FCC standards or regulatory says that we cannot have radios which are, or we cannot share channel sizes beyond 80 megahertz channel size, right? So this specific product or hardware or frequency band solution would be a non-US, so I won't specifically go into the details, but it's for specific other countries which allow up to 224 megahertz channel sizes, right? So for US based 11.7 would be the key. Of course these software features will apply over here, but from a pure hardware release perspective, 11.7 or maybe like in Q2 or end of Q2 would be an ideal time frame for the release of these other products, right? From the 11.9 is expected in Q3, somewhere in that time frame. Again, these software features are as now planned. Things might change slowly, but we will definitely keep you updated if it does. But this is generally the plan for now. For the 850S, we will have dual band with layer and aggregation. So 850C is coming up in 11.7, and the 11.9 will have it in for the 850S. Some of the key QS and some of the other AES encryption features. And 850C will have 2+0 XPIC and some HQS features, right? So this is the specific product specific high level upgrade. Now I want to spend maybe a couple of minutes talking about why you should, or who should be focused on 850 series, and where should you use 820 series and where should you use 850. It would be a reiteration of the example that if you already have an existing link and if you want to provide higher capacity, this would be the right option, right, for you to use. Because in this case, you are keeping your existing network and just adding an extra cable, and then you are getting higher capacity, right? So this is number one. Number two is would be eventually if FCC opens up, but let's see when that would be the case. You already have the availability or opportunity to use beyond 80 megahertz to 224. So in case the FCC band opens up and all that, so you always have the ability to move to a wider channel size, right? So those are the two main reasons. So where should you not buy the, or what are the factors you should not consider, or should you consider for not going for 850? So if you already have an existing radio and everything is fine, or you're happy with the capacity, there is no specific reason to move to a 850 platform, right? Or if you want a slightly higher modulation, right? So if I go back, uh, so if you see the modulation, the 4096 QAM, so the 820 platform, I think does up to 2K, 1K and 2K. It depends on the frequency and channel size and all that combination. But typically you can get easily up to 1K or 2K. But if you want to go higher capacity, for that extra capacity, you will have to go for the 850 platform. So one of the great limitations for the 820 platform is the modulation rate. So that is overcome in the 850 series with the 4K modulation, right? So from the configuration point of view, eventually all the combinations that we support on the 820 will be available in the 850. So that is generally not a concern. So these are like the pros and cons that I would consider before, if I want to go for a 850 series or a 820.
Thank you very much, Sagar, for that going over all that information. A few questions rolled in during your presentation. Do we have time to go over a few of them?
Yep.
Perfect. One of the questions that came in was, when will you support the 4+0 configuration with one fiber line transporting all the traffic?
So as I talked about in the roadmap slide, so definitely in May, June-ish, so within a few months, this is the timeline that we were marking. So this exact one, so 4+0 using L1 aggregation, using a fiber, we should aim for by end of Q2 of this year. So it's not that far away.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And sorry if some of these questions we reviewed already, but we'll just make them as a review of those points again. Another one is, will any SFP Plus module work in the 850?
Yes, so the existing SFP modules will work. It depends, of course, on what's specific module we are seeing. But for the most part, it should work because the 820 series typically only had 1 and 2.5 gig SFPs. For the 10 gig one, I think we didn't have any 10 gig SFP. So on our link planner platform, we have a specific SFP which we have tested with the 850 series. So we recommend using that for deployment.
Great, thank you. Another one is, do I need to purchase an additional port key for the 850 if just using Ethernet for management, Ethernet for PoE, and fiber for data?
Right. Fiber for data, so the 10 gig, I think there is a license key for that. I think to open up, so the same license keys that apply for the 820 series apply for the 850, so there's no change in that. If I go through the quick list that I have, I think the 10 gig port needs one. You need a key, and then if you want to open up the second radio, I think you need a key. I don't think there's any key on the Ethernet or for management side. I can check, but I can check and let you know. I don't want to say wrong information on top of my head, but I know there are 2 or 3 specific keys for other things, but I have to check on these Ethernet. I don't think so. We have that for management.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And that concludes all of our questions. If any more questions come up, please email us at sales@ispsupplies.com and we will get them answered for you. We will also be posting a recording of this webinar to our YouTube at youtube.com/ispsupplies and on Facebook at facebook.com/ispsupplies. So please make sure to subscribe and follow us. Once again, very special thank you to Sagar Deshpande for this very good, well put together, detailed overview of both solutions. If anyone is interested in going over some pricing information, please shoot us an email at sales@ispsupplies.com or give us a call at 855-947-7776. That's 855-WISP-PRO. And one of our sales engineers will be happy to assist you. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining us today, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your week. And God bless.